Yo, Scrawny with the Skinny back at it with the fantasy land, and we're talking PGL playoffs. That's right. The CS2 major begins tomorrow. A little late video, but I think it's easy enough to keep this one pretty simple. If you guys haven't watched my Pick'ems video about the predictions for the playoffs, go ahead and watch that. I'm going to skip over my predictions mostly, or my explanations for them, so that if you really want the details through my thought processes of who wins what, go watch that one instead. It is my most previous video. So here are the corn dogs coming in at top 27%. This was for the top 16 stage, the opening stage as they call it now. Ended up going more faith and phase, which I don't understand why, because to be honest, in my pick'ems, didn't really have much faith in phase and had far more faith in MOUZ, putting them as my 3-0 pick. If my fantasy had reflected that, had I gotten a Brolin, a Xertion, a Yimfat, or a Torji, then I definitely would have had more points and I would be higher than top 27%. But luckily having Shuhei worked out, Zontix and Spinks were both great picks. It really just should have been an overemphasis on MOUZ to make the difference on this one. But that's the way she goes, huh? Where does it leave us? Well, that's top 27%. That was 15 points because these two stages of the major apparently are double points. That would have been nice to know at the start of the season, which means that the playoffs are actually ultra important. I am ranked 13th right now with 78 points. Still shooting for top 10 and eventually top 5. All right, we got time to make it there. God damn, we got time to make it there. So like I said, if you want to know my thoughts and breakdowns for the quarterfinals, the semi, and the grand finals and how that's going to go down, go watch my pick'em video. It's much more in-depth, and I would like to prepare for my quarterfinals, so I'm keeping this video a little short. But the gist of it is this, okay? I anticipate Spirit winning the major. Myself and I think like 60% of all people who have done the Pickstop community pick'ems have Spirit winning the entire event. I expect Spirit and MOUZ to be the grand finalists. My justification for that being that Spirit has on paper everything they need to make this happen, and due to recent results in Katowice and prior, have proven it already that is in their hands. FaZe starting up against them, is kind of like the one counter argument to Spirit. People think maybe if FaZe beats Spirit in the opening quarterfinal, that suddenly, it's going to be FaZe to run away with it. Here's what I think. The only compelling argument is that maybe Kerrigan's able to get the crowd wrapped around his finger. However, trying to tap into the crowd's influence like that would work in maybe a totally jammed environment, right? A fall final where it's total Danish bias. But on a Thursday, as the first game of the playoffs, I don't think the crowd's going to be in a state or a size that is going to cause Spirit to crumble. I think FaZe will play better than they have in the first stages, but I think Spirit is already so much better that even if we get a better FaZe, as everybody's anticipating, it's not going to be enough to stop Team Spirit. And then with the uncertainty of Cloud9 and Vitality and where that game goes, of the 4 teams on the top side, Spirit's my favorite. That's why I'm going to put emphasis on them. Same for the bottom side of the bracket. When I look at this, I think maybe G2 brings something a little bit better to the table. I still think MOUZ are simply better. I think that there's actually maybe an overrating of MOUZ coming into this, and it feels like there's way more people putting MOUZ as the second grand finalist because of the nature of their 3-0 start, but they did lose 11 rounds to Ecstatic. They did lose 11 rounds to, I believe, Eternal Fire. The stomp from complexity is what has everybody so convinced MOUZ is going to do it. I think MOUZ might actually have a shakier quarterfinal. I think that they've just got a good win versus G2 queued up, right? I don't believe in this G2. I'm sorry, I don't. I think m0NESY will be a problem for them. I think m0NESY will win rounds. Whether those rounds end up having ramifications and, like this trickle down of the follow-ups, the saves that come with big moments and clutches, well, that's to be determined. But I have full faith in Shuhei and his ability to adapt to the opponents and the situations that come forth. So for me, again, MOUZ over G2, and then that other game of Na'Vi versus Eternal Fire, even though I'm a little uncertain as to who wins that, and I think it's more of a 50-50, it's the comparison. It is the Cloud9 Vitality of the lower half of the bracket. If you have to put your stock in a team before you get to see them in the quarters, to me, it's got to be Spirit and MOUZ. It's just, they are the most convincing. Not only because of their 3-0s in the top 16 stage of the major, but over their last 6 months of accomplishments. MOUZ have made so many playoffs, and all of their last 4 playoffs that they've made, they've been cut down to size due to FaZe, who I don't think will meet them in grand finals. You know, I don't think, I'm so happy MOUZ don't have to contest with FaZe on this side of the bracket. I think that's why they make it into the grand finals. I think that's why Shuhei calls a back-to-back major grand finals run here for MOUZ. So with that said, like I said, more details on the Pick'ems video, but that's a taste of my expectations. So we're drafting Spirit, we're drafting MOUZ. I'm going to start off with MOUZ. With MOUZ, you know, you never know who it's going to be, right? They almost have this like FaZe Light-esque aura about them where it's like you might draft Brokey and then that's his bad event. Rops goes crazy even though they were similarly priced, or Twists was right there in the past. You know, to me, that's MOUZ. I never know who it's going to be. It used to be Xertion for me for a little while. Then it was Yimfat at the tail end of CSGO. And then with Brolin's original inclusion to this new MOUZ roster, ooh, I was all in on him. And I've always written off Torzy, but goddamn can he ever op. So when I look at MOUZ, I need to pick 2 players, but I don't have them winning the event. I have Spirit winning the event. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter, and I think that that justifies an inclusion of Shuhei, who on a statistical level is actually underperforming in comparison to somebody like Major of Eternal Fire. So I don't think that Shuhei is somebody who's going to earn you a lot of points in the frag department, but again, my expectations are that they win, and simply getting that far in the bracket will end up being worth it. For me, I look across MOUZ, and due to a future choice, I'm not going to take Torzy on the op. Jimfat's the most expensive, and I think for $2,000 left, Brolin is actually a great pick. He has a lot of experience on playoffs, even more so than some of these other pieces of MOUZ who are being criminally underrated. You know, in Pimp's Pick'em video, when he says that MOUZ don't have stage experience, it's like, I'm sorry, are we watching the same fucking team? What? I Am Sydney, CAC, Dallas, Katowice, now Major? Come on, bro. MOUZ have been playing it. And then on top of that, I'm going to give Shuhei an extra shout out because he run Gamer Legion all the way to the Paris Grand Finals when he was working with less impressive players. To write off MOUZ in the face of G2, in my mind, is criminal. And it's a real disservice to what these players have been able to do over the last 6 months. So, yeah. Brolin and Shuhei. That's our MOUZ picks. Now I'm going to go for affordability, okay? And I already said his name in this. If we're looking at affordable players and I'm scrolling through the bronze, I expect Kerrigan to lose early. I expect Hooksy to lose early. My Pick'ems video has Alexi B and Navi over Eternal Fire, but that does not mean that I am a fool and that I am willing to write off Eternal Fire. And I really like what Major brought to the table in their last game to qualify for playoffs. You know, the interview afterwards saying, like, I felt it in my teammates that they, you know, I don't know if they were going to bring it that day, so I had to step forward. I had to step up. I had to take on an individual responsibility. And he's currently holding, I think, like a 1.2 rating after the opening stage, which is unreal for Major. So considering they could beat Navi, considering even if they don't, I think he could play well, I am more than happy taking Major as my bronze and opening up money for the Spirit combinations. And I say combinations because I think this is going to be the defining factor of how to have a positive fantasy for the playoffs of the CS2 Major. There's 2 combinations you can make here, and it comes down to how high you think Zontix can take the ceiling or how much lower you think Chopper will end in comparison to Magix. Now, Magix has a lot of top 8 Major experience, right? 2 top 8 runs with Spirit and 2 or 3. Regardless, I rest my case. He's somebody who's not going to end up crumbling under the pressure and I think could actually have some impact. So here are your options, right? If you follow the rest of this draft, boom, you've got Zontix and Magix with $0 left. And I think at this point, you've got a strong core. Brolin, Zontix, Magix. But this feels like a little bit middle of the pack, if I'm being entirely honest. You know, I love Zontix. I think that, you know, he lives in Donk's shadow. He is the shade in some ways, you know, this creature that kind of exists behind Donk, but is just as deadly. And even though Magix is better than Chopper, no doubt, dude, Chopper's been having an individual level that I think is very praiseworthy. And just coming down to Magix's playstyle, when stomps happen, it's not to take anything away from Magix, but I feel like rating gets left on the table and sometimes taken by Chopper because Magix is in no rush to go out and get kills. So you have Zontix Magix as one option. But I think the real sell here is actually Shiro and Chopper. You can afford it with an extra $1,000. For the exact same draft, I think taking Shiro and Chopper gives you that X factor. It gives you that star potential, right? When it comes to the Spirit squad. Brolin, Shuhei, as I said, and then Major to wrap it up. I think this is a really good team, right? Shiro, Brolin, those are the stars of the show, the two players who could very much fuel each of their team's runs into grand finals, but more emphasis on Spirit because of their accomplishment in Katowice and my belief that they will beat MOUZ in that best of 3 grand finals. And then shout out Major, who I think could be a nice little side piece to get us some extra bonus points to maybe push us over the edge. So here you have the CS2 playoff corn dogs. Again, the roles here just work out super well. Everybody's like above 40% activation rate. I'm going to put MOUZ on, Shuhei on leader just because he doesn't really activate anything else. And I think they'll win. So it'll be worth it even if they end up losing grand finals. And bonus 5 if they do upset for the actual Major win. And same for Major himself, right? 50%. So the rolls feel good. The prediction is in line with my pick'ems, and I just sense that this is going to be a changing of the guard type moment. That the CS2 Major will feature some very young and lesser experienced players in the grand finals in comparison to G2 and FaZe. I know there's a lot of people just trying to say like, they're going to choke. Either you think G2 will beat MOUZ, or you think FaZe will beat Spirit, or God forbid you think both will upset versus the 2-3-0 teams. But I don't think it's a fluke that they went 3-0. I saw it coming personally, and I anticipate this grand finals run. So I'm feeling good. If anything, I think MOUZ just straight up win the Major, which it would cost me my diamond coin, but goddamn, I'd be lying if I had said that I wouldn't be happy for them. Either way, if that trophy gets hoisted by either of these two teams, it's an amazing moment in Counter-Strike. So there you go. A little late on the fantasy, should have gave it to you guys a day or two sooner, but I was soaking up some off time preparing for what's going to be a fantastic playoffs. Thank you guys for watching as always. The YouTube traffic has been dope as of late, so I really appreciate the comments and the likes and the subscribes and whatnot. We hit 5,000 subscribers, and we hit, or we're about to, and we hit 250,000 channel views. I got an email from YouTube saying, yo, you dope. You done hit it, kid. 250,000 views on the YouTube across the entire collection of videos. So that's actually just a cool milestone that I wasn't aware of, and it just kind of clicked and it hit the good juices. So thank you guys for your time. I always appreciate that people want to hear me talk about fantasy and just Counter-Strike in general. And until the next one, all right? Enjoy the show.